Hello everyone, we're doing another Tech Tools Playground quick check, and today I'm going to attempt to do a 2-for-1. I'm going to show you a little bit about Pear Deck, but in doing so I'm also going to show you a pretty cool how-to tool that you can use to instruct your students in a step-by-step process. My first step is to open up any Google slide deck, and I'm going to go to my add-ons. And if you don't have the Pear Deck add-on, you're going to click on Get Add-ons. This is a great way to find additional tools. I use their video insertion tools. There are a lot of different things you can learn about here, but we're going to talk about Pear Deck today. But I'm also going to show you this other tool called Iorad. And it calls itself the fastest tutorial builder on the planet. So we're going to test that out right now live and see how we do. So while I'm back here, this is the page for which I want to create a tutorial. So I am going to click on my little extension, and I have the extension here in my Chrome toolbar, and now I'm going to start capturing my steps for this Google Doc, and it gives me some reminders. I'm going to perform my actions slowly and then finish this when I'm done. So I can now go to the add-ons. I click on add-ons. It's recording that step for me. I click on Pear Deck, and then I open my Pear Deck add-on. So I'm showing you that live, but the Iorad is also capturing these steps. So as I'm demoing Pear Deck, also be thinking, what could you use Iorad to record step-by-step instructions for your students? Now, if you want to do something on Pear Deck, why I really like it is it makes any lesson interactive. So I can go to the beginning of the lesson, and I have a variety of options here for built-in little quick checks, things that you want to do before a lesson. When you click on any of these things, it will insert that into your slide deck. So now you would have an interactive tool that you can get feedback from students. This is a nice little temperature check at the beginning of a lesson to ask them, what do you already know? You can also go through, there are during the lesson activities, there are end of the lesson activities. You can also scroll down, there are also just some nice, pretty simple features. The ABC allows you to just ask a question and students type a response. There is the multiple choice, which is great for a variety of things. Click on the number. You can also link to a website. So think of all the times you're presenting and you want students to go to a specific website and it takes them forever to actually get there. This way you can just embed that website right into your presentation. There are also these more advanced features, they're called the Draggable or the Draw, that are part of the paid for program. But here's a quick tip. If you go back to this beginning of the lesson option, and you want a draggable, you can insert this draggable, which is part of the free package, and you can make it whatever kind of draggable you want. So Pear Deck will insert a new slide template for me, and this draggable is free. But if you don't want this draggable, you can simply click on these icons and delete that information and then insert your own image, and you can put whatever image you want in there. So you could put a map, you could put a cell, you could put, I have a pretty funny little thing of Lego faces that have different emotions, so you could have students drag the dot to what they want, to how they're feeling at any point in the lesson. For example, for this particular slide deck, I have a drag the dot. I have put in each of these little images, And then I use this just to ask teachers, what do you want to talk about today? And people drag their dots, and then I get a sense of where things are of most interest. So I'm going to click the Iorad to be done with those instructions, and let's switch gears a little bit to look at that. So now I'm in the Iorad editor, and I can name this tutorial, and I now can go through and edit my steps. You can see that the pink highlight shows where I clicked on something. So this would be handy for you to literally show students, click on this button, do this. So you can edit what is said over here. And so I have this digital reflection and click on add-ons. That looks good. So then I go to next. This has the same thing. I had to click on this a couple of times. So I can delete this step and then go on to the next step. So now I have the Open Pear Deck add-on. That was my next step for my students. And scroll undefined. So I can make this more specific. Scroll through the slide library and click beginning of lesson. So I can make the instructions say whatever actually matches in that slide deck. As I'm making my instructions, I can make these instructions for the students more specific. So I can tell them to drag and drop something, to type something, scroll, right click, click, or just to read. So they're getting more detailed instructions about how to move through the steps that I am creating. Once I've edited my slides and deleted any extra information, I can preview and finish so I can get a sense of what this will look like for students. You have the option to add text-to-speech voiceover, a very handy option for some of our users. But right now you can see what I then will have is this little step-by-step guide that instructs students how to go through all of the steps for adding Pear Deck. And it just walks them through exactly where they need to click, where they need to focus, what they need to do. So now we're back just in regular Pear Deck, and we can wrap up our conversation here. Pear Deck is just a great way to take any presentation tool, and what your students are going to do when you're ready to present something from your slide deck, you will present the lesson in Pear Deck. It will link and sync, and then you will have this login screen. Your students are going to then have their own devices, either a phone, a tablet, a computer, and they are going to log in to your presentation and making your presentation an interactive conversation between you and the students. Then you project this page. Students go to joinpd.com, type in the little code. As they enter, you will see a little number tick every time a student is able to join. They do need to join with a Gmail account, so keep that in mind, but you would need to have a Gmail account in order to use this, so it is pretty Google specific. Once you're ready to go, you can just start your presentation. Once you've started your presentation, you go through your slide deck just like you would any normal presentation, with the main exception that as you're presenting information, what is projected on the screen in the classroom is also on individual student devices. It is right there in front of their eyes. More importantly, so too are these embedded formative assessment quick checks that you have. In this case, this one would be asking students to respond to this as a multiple choice question. You can see down in this lower corner, it's an ABC question. Students will just check where they're at. Think of all of the quick bell ringer questions that you could ask students to get a sense of how they're feeling about content or how things are going for them. When you're ready to display that information, you simply hover your mouse over the bottom and click on Show Responses. No responses right now, no students are in this presentation, but you can get a sense as students are answering, you would see a bar graph going across as they're choosing their multiple choice answer. Note that you can lock the screen. You can make it so that no more responses can come in. If you're doing a draggable activity, that's particularly nice. You can turn off the dots so students can't zip them around. But I can hide the responses and go back to my next questions. So here is a type or draw question, and then we have our open-ended questions. So you can see students can do multiple choice, you can do draggables, you can do drawing questions, you can do short answer questions. This is another draggable. You have all kinds of options of how to build in some quick checks with your students. Students wouldn't have to have their own devices. You could easily do this in teams, in groups. So think if you were teaching a new math concept or going through parts of a cell or going through different people in history, you could set up these quick checks and then make the team talk to each other, and then each group posts their response instead of individual students. So lots of ways to use Pear Deck as you're going through. You can collect the data that is gathered through here, students' responses. When you end, you will have the option to name that session so you can capture that information, and then it takes you right back to this. So again, a pretty simple, direct instruction tool, but something that really changes your normal lecture into an interactive, collaborative activity in the classroom. So think about Pear Deck and how you might use this to increase your learning and increase student engagement. Also think about this Iorad and how you might build a tutorial for your students, as I built a tutorial on how to use Pear Deck. I will link that tutorial into the video description about Pear Deck so you can also see how that tutorial works. So today's tech tool playground was a bit of a 2-for-1, trying to test out a couple different tech tools. As always, share your comments, share your reactions, and most importantly, share how this is going for you with your students. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.